I was actually, Robert, I didn't know whether or not to go into this, but I think this is your area.
Okay.
I'm under the assumption that you're really upset about this move, but I got a notification this morning that says that AI Fruit Love Island has been kicked off of TikTok. Now, I am not on TikTok, so I had to go and do some research, but apparently this is an AI spinoff of Love Island, but the people, the ladies and gentlemen, are all fruits. And it just
It's the jokes are right there. The jokes are right there. The jokes are right there.
So, and I know the algorithm kind of like does it itself. So I'm sure this is at the top of your stream.
It is not, sadly. It is not. I'm learning about this literally in real time as you're going through this. I have not heard of it's Fruit Love Island. Is that
Yes.
So
this is interesting. This is a news item
okay.
Because actually, and I mean, now that I was going to poke fun at you, but since you haven't, I really thought that this was kind of your jam.
No.
Jam,
yeah,
get it?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. A TikTok
man.
account. This is from Morning Brew. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
A TikTok account churning out AI parodies of Love Island starring
Okay.
Fruit, creatively named Fruit Love Island, to 3.3 million followers, has been removed from TikTok, the platform. They made the decision. Because I think it's just interesting as we go.
Why did they remove it? Copyright things?
Yeah,
or
basically they said that it was it's a snagged millions of views, and then fans started doing parody videos, and then for whatever reason, TikTok hasn't formally announced why, but this is as of yesterday, which is Wednesday. The channel no longer exists, but copycats and compilations have popped up on TikTok and YouTube. And basically, it was the whole thing about AI slop and whether I think this is interesting that they're actually making this decision. And I saw a picture from it, and it almost made me want to watch it.
Sure.
I'm not a reality person, but something that's AI Fruit Island sounds.
Something spread my seed. I don't know. I'm just
what? That's what you got from all.
Yeah, I mean, then there's, I guess, the
my Smuckers are yours.
Is sure, or is it the size of a banana?
It's
peach. I mean, the peach.
Peaches and cream.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
I realize this is no longer a family friendly show. Those people that are going into work
with
your kids listening, we can't.
They have no idea. They have no idea.
All right, but anyways, I'm gonna go down. I've never watched a reality series, but this is the one I'm gonna.
I think it's probably the perfect one for you.
I think it is. I'm gonna make it happen.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Publicis and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose, and with me, as always, is my co-host, my friend, and the happiest podcaster in the world that it's opening day for baseball, Mr. Joe Publicis.
I am, and I wore all my Guardians gear.
Yeah.
I got my Cleveland shirt on. I got my CLE Stephen Kwan hat on.
You should see what's going on here in LA. I mean, the whole town is like Dodger, fanatics. I mean, there's baseballs on the highway, and there's all the newscasters are wearing their gear. It's like everybody's freaking out. It's great. That's lovely.
You're going for your three-peat. I wish we had your budget. I wish we had 10% of your budget.
Do you know what I learned? I did not. I don't know why I didn't know this, because Ohtani, the sort of famous pitcher.
One of the great, probably one of the greatest players of all time. Yes.
Probably, we'll see. I mean, he's got a long way to go, but
pretty close.
Yeah. But he got the famous, it's a $700 million deal, which is, of course, shook up the world of baseball when it happened. But I didn't know this, that actually he doesn't really start. He's basically getting $2 million a year for the next 6 years.
Deferred.
Yeah. So it's like he doesn't start actually making big money until 2034. 2034 is when he starts earning, and I think at that point it's like $60 million a year he starts getting.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's basically I mean it's kind of like the federal debt. They're just pushing it away. The Dodgers are pushing all this cost into the future. They can actually because they don't get penalized. That's not salary like they don't get taxed on the salary cap component of that. So they can get all these players if they defer it. Now, depending on how watered down the MLB players agreement is by that time, who knows what kind of shape they're going to be in, but they're going to say, hey, we'll worry about it in 8 years.
Well, who knows what kind of shape Ohtani's going to be in 2034. I mean,
he can be retired. It doesn't matter. He's going to get the money. He probably only has that amount of time because he's batting and he's pitching. I mean, Babe Ruth didn't do that. Babe Ruth did it. He was pitching and then he was hitting. He wasn't.
I guess the idea is that you're just doing, like you say, you're doing federal debt, right? You're sort of like they even if he leaves the team in 2032, well then, okay, they're paying for basically that then, and then now they're paying, some other new player where they'll do a deferred deal and, be 20. So they're always like 20 years away from bankruptcy kind of
It's
thing.
a little bit of it. I mean, if it's not too dissimilar than the Bobby Bonilla deal, he still gets paid $1 million I forgot the Bobby Bonilla day, but there's a day that New York Mets fans celebrate every year. It's called Bobby Bonilla Day because Bobby Bonilla got paid $1 million instead of getting it all at once. And we'll pay you $1 million for the next 35 years or whatever. So he just keeps getting paid every year. He hasn't played for 20 years.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
He keeps getting paid. But leave it to New York and LA for ruining this beautiful game of baseball by doing this. But what's interesting in this little conversation that I didn't know you were going to bring up, and then we'll go on to more interesting things like marketing. But LA spends more. You don't see it in the salary cap, but if you look at all the deferred stuff and whatever, LA spends the most. And I think this year the Cleveland Guardians will spend the least.
Okay.
It hurts. It hurts that we can't. It's like we spent our free agent money on Austin Hedges, who I love,
right,
on a backup catcher deal for $3 million just because we want him on the bench because he's a really good person to have in the clubhouse.
Sure.
And he batted like 140 last year.
Okay.
That's what we do. Yeah. That's how the Guardians roll.
But, yeah. Well, I know not of baseball, so I don't know the whole thing. All I know is that it's it's not football. No,
it's definitely not football.
Yeah, I mean the business is very different, is what I'm saying. Is that the way players are managed and the way that the teams are managed? In the NFL, basically, largely the teams are managed in a similar fashion. It's a very copycat league, not just in the way that people play, but in the way that they manage their business as well. In terms of free agency and the draft, and it's all the teams basically operate in a very similar way within a range, right? There are teams who spend more and teams who spend less, but with the salary cap, pretty much everybody spends what they can, right?
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I don't know. We just lost half our audience. Well, whatever. But yeah, you spent the weekend in Mexico.
I did.
You look wonderful. You look like you got absolutely no sun at all.
It's a thing, right? It's definitely a thing. I am Scottish, and I am the color of an iPhone flashlight. So there is no, I don't get tan. I don't get tan.
Are you related to Scott Galloway? He's Scottish too. Did you know that?
He is Scottish. His dad is Scottish. Yeah.
I'm reading Notes on Being a Man right now.
Oh, how is it?
It's right now it's basically the story of Scott Galloway's childhood.
Okay.
And I already knew most of it because if you listen to his podcast, he talks about it all the time. But then so we're getting to the point now where we're talking about the endangered species, which is the white young man.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
most part, but young men in general.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting.
But the stats are really disturbing because basically the way he builds out the premise is that society needs young men to prosper because young men who don't prosper cause all kinds of havoc.
Sure.
Like
Yeah, exactly.
the most havoc. They're the ones that are doing all the bad things in society. They go to all the fringes when
Yeah.
they don't have confidence and they have, bomb making equipment and whatever they're doing.
Right.
So from
They
that
act out
standpoint,
for sure. Yeah.
I totally get it. So I mean, and he's been doing a good job. I mean, you've seen him on CNN and all the
Oh
other
yeah,
channels doing the
he's passionate about it for sure. Yeah, he's definitely passionate about it. I applaud his efforts because it's it can be a thankless job, right? I mean, in terms of advocating for that, because it's very close to the sort of, it gets very close to some of the lines that are culturally sort of third rails in terms of male, sort of talking about males versus females, and and all of that stuff. So
it-
it's hard work, and so I applaud him for trying. Right.
yeah. The stats that really get you is he talks about when a household loses the man of the house. When that happens through divorce or whatever, the odds of the things that can happen and probably do happen to a young child, a young boy in the house are detrimental, like are horrible. They go
Yeah.
like the odds of incarceration jump a huge amount, the odds of not going to college jump a huge amount just from losing that parental figure. So
Yep.
it's just like, wow, like
Yeah.
when you look at the stats, it's really kind of scary. So
Yeah. Indeed.
anyways, yeah.
Indeed.
So
All
let's
right.
talk about advertising and
Yeah.
marketing and
Yeah. Well,
stuff
this is
like
going to
that.
be the ads show. It's going to be like lots of marketing and advertising in this show. We've got some really interesting stories and breaking stories, really. As of yesterday, we'll open up with the big story, which is, of course, social media had its day in court. And yeah, they didn't do so well. The social media channels, both YouTube and Meta, are addictive to kids, say a jury, and they're going to have to pay. I think it's probably around 25 cents, 30 cents for all the damages that they did. It's a
Is
very
that per person?
yeah, it's
Tony?
well, no, it's not. I think it's literally a bucket of pucks that they're going to have to pay. Anyway, we'll also talk about OpenAI. They have discontinued Sora. Dun dun dun. Disney says, "What the f?" And so we'll talk about that. And that OpenAI also got a new advertising chief, a head of advertising. What the heck is OpenAI up to? Then after we pay some bills, we'll get to TikTok. They have been on, well, in fuego, as it were, at the NewFronts. The NewFronts being, of course, where all the advertising is sold these days. And they have a new pitch. TikTok has a new pitch with new ownership and all of that. We'll talk through some of what they've been talking about at their new forms of advertising. Then when we get to our winners and losers, I will talk about the loser that is Trade Desk and their spat with Publicis. But it's more to seeing than meets the eye there. Let's put it that way. Joe, we'll talk about the loser that is Apple in something, which will be really interesting. Yeah. And then we'll get to our rants and raves, where I will provide some commentary on something that is really just not getting any press at all, which is the Perplexity versus Amazon case. And I have some thoughts about that.
I know nothing about it, so I'm interested to get your take.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And then Joe will talk a little bit about Rick Rubin, one of my favorites out there, and he is making all the virals these days about what's going on with him and AI and all that kind of stuff.
Does Rick Rubin own shoes? I've
He
never
may
seen
not.
never seen him in a picture with shoes.
That's right. He does not wear shoes a lot, for sure. Nor does he dress up in anything other than a t-shirt and sort of cargo shorts, as far as I can see.
They got a limited wardrobe.
Let's
put it that way. All right.
I'm sure he's one of those guys who has. Remember back in the day, they used to. Zuckerberg did this. Steve Jobs did this. It was sort of a Silicon Valley sort of sort of humble brag, where you would say, I don't want to store the synapses in my brain for thinking about clothes. So they basically had 14 pairs of jeans, 14 pairs of black turtlenecks,
Steve
and
Jobs.
14 pairs of,
Steve Jobs was the original.
And Zuckerberg
black
did the same thing,
turtleneck
right?
and jeans or whatever.
Yeah, that was it, right? Because and it was just like so ridiculous. It's
you don't agree with that? I agree with that.
I definitely don't agree with that. I think if you can't hold that having a wardrobe as per in your head.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example.
Yes.
I have a very limited speaking wardrobe, and I have for a long time. I've got like four. Well,
that's a different
shirts,
thing. That's a different thing.
I've got my speaking jeans.
Sure.
And I've got my speaking jacket.
Sure.
And
so do I.
The fact that I don't have to think about it at all helps me process.
Totally. And it's a brand thing. And it's also a brand thing, right?
That's
it's also
true.
a brand thing. It looks good in pictures because then the pictures are consistent. And then that's a different thing. That's performance. That's a costume, right? That's definitely having a standard set of costumes for performance. That's a different thing than not being able to think about your wardrobe full stop, right?
I don't know. I'm thinking about doing that. I'm going to go to all just orange shirts and jeans. That's it.
Well, that's Tuesday for you. I mean,
I'm not no orange today because I'm rocking the Guardians blue and gray and red or whatever I have.
There we go.
All right. Tell me about Instagram and YouTube, please.
Okay, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So we'll open up our story with this is from the Los Angeles Times, actually, my hometown newspaper, and basically that opens up and says landmark LA jury verdict finds Instagram and YouTube were designed to addict kids. The article opens up by saying, after a grueling 7 weeks of court proceedings and more than 40 hours of tense deliberations across 9 days in one of the country's most closely watched civil trials, jurors handed down a landmark decision in Los Angeles County Superior Court on Wednesday, finding Instagram and YouTube responsible for the suffering of a Chico, California woman who charged the platform were built to addict young users. And then the very unfortunate ad placement for me, anyway, with the people losing hair. It's a very weird ad placement, but I don't know what is the
I don't know. I don't have.
I was gonna say what ad are you seeing? But anyway,
I'm seeing January 1735 garden, the unframed garden. What is that?
All right.
Yeah. See, you and I are not the same.
We don't get to, and I'll talk about programmatic ads later, so this will be interesting. Anyway, So the 20-year-old plaintiff who testified in February arrived in court just before 10 a.m., and she was stoic as the verdict, an award of $3 million, and a decision warranting additional punitive damages were read out. A companion fought back tears, her chin quivering. Oh my God, LA Times, her chin quivering. Several observers wept silently despite Judge Carolyn Kuhl's repeated warning not to respond.
Are you doing Katharine Hepburn?
I know I'm doing the.
I'm
doing the transatlantic accent with the news. It's like
I thought it was it's a very close.
It's the 19th. Well, she did a transatlantic accent, right? Basically, it's the old newsman, right, who would say something like, the 20-year-old plaintiff who testified in February arrived in court just before 10 a.m.
There you go. You're going all in. I like it.
Yeah, she remains stoic as the verdict, an award of $3 million, a decision warranting additional punitive damages worth. Anyway, go ahead. But what do you think? I mean, I have a take on this about YouTube specifically, but I wanted to get your take.
So what I thought was interesting in this whole thing, and I wanted to get your take on it, is, of course, the social media platforms have always been protected through Section 230, that they're not liable or responsible, really, for any type of content. For anything, which has allowed us to get this far.
That's the news here, basically. Yeah.
The news is that they're not targeting the content; they're targeting the platform design.
Right.
And that's a whole new thing.
Yeah.
So they're saying the platform is designed in such a way, put the content to the side, where it's going to addict you. It's going to get you into certain patterns. It's going to affect your mental state. It's going to lead to patterns of depression. And this is huge. So this really, I don't know.
It's a novel way to attack it for sure.
So they're coming at it from that standpoint. So everything that's happened up to this point has basically gotten shot down and in favor of the social media platforms because of that Section 230. Well, now if you say, okay, Section 230, that's fine. We're going to go this direction with platform design. Everything else comes back into play where you're going to, I mean, I know you talked about a bucket of pucks here, $3 million, whatever, but this is going to happen thousands of times.
Oh, sure. This is just the first
over
case
the
here.
next 5 years.
Yeah, and they're going to appeal. I mean, both of them will definitely appeal this.
But don't you think this is kind of the big tobacco moment?
It could be. It could very well be. The thing with big tobacco, however, was that it was more of a class action against states attorneys general that took big tobacco to court and got the initial.
That's what I'm saying. Don't you think that this one? I know the class action lawsuit, but don't you think that now this leads to the larger class action where you'll sign up, they'll get millions of people signed up, and then they'll pay the big multi-billion-dollar payoff, and then it'll be done?
I don't actually believe that's going to be true. I don't know that you're going to get, certainly not in this political climate right now. I don't know that you're going to get states willing to, certainly not this year. You might next year, right? Depending on what happens with the election, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think you're going to have a few more of these that happen I think there's one in New Mexico. I think
the New Mexico one is that one was yesterday too.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Where is that at? New Mexico. That one went in favor of the plaintiff as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a significantly more amount of money.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see more of these types of lawsuits that get filed, and probably in the similar way. And so, but I don't think you're going to see I don't think you're going to see states attorneys general go after this right now. I just don't think it's going to happen. Not in a concerted way. And we'll see what happens on appeals, right? Because YouTube actually has a good argument, right? So YouTube's argument is basically, hey, look, we're not a social media network, right? We're a streaming platform. And why YouTube hasn't just removed comments is beyond, like, they would have saved themselves so much trouble by just removing comments full stop, and getting rid of that and sort of not looking like a social media network. But they've done it. So,
but it's the if I'm reading this correctly, it's the scroll.
Yeah,
they're getting
exactly
it on the scroll,
which you don't do in YouTube, right? You don't really do in YouTube, like in a similar way, right? You don't do it in a similar way of TikTok. You don't do it in a similar way to Instagram. You certainly don't do it it's not YouTube. You don't scroll like that, right? You have to, go to videos that are on a page, and then you can go to another video that's on a page. YouTube Shorts, however, is a little like that, right? It's a little more like TikTok. So it's to your point, and this is the real news, is that the novel thing here is going after the user interface instead of the content. They're not, who cares what the content is? It's the user experience that they're saying basically is addictive. And it's just smart. It's just super smart.
Just to correct myself here, if you go down on this article, it says the verdict, the one that you're talking about, arrived less than 24 hours after a New Mexico jury found Meta liable for $375 million in damages related to state attorney's claim it turned Instagram into a breeding ground for child predators. A decision the platform has vowed to appeal.
Yeah, that's a different thing. Yeah.
Wow. So
Meta's in trouble here. Meta's in trouble. I think Google, or excuse me, Google and YouTube, they may be okay. They may end
there's a carve out there.
They may win on appeal, right? And it might be better actually for some of these other ones to. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, right? And I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure why YouTube was necessarily stuck in here, because what it does is then suggest that, well, why isn't TikTok in here? Why aren't some of the other social media networks in here as well? It is just because they're not as popular, and they're not as, it's really Instagram here that's causing trouble.
Yeah. Well, and I'm surprised that TikTok, well, now that TikTok's a US company.
Yeah, that's right.
That is quote unquote a US company.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Sure.
Sure.
that could be good. I don't know. The only thing I would say, you're probably right. Nothing will happen, but I will say that it seems like
It's
this
the long
issue
time.
is safe. But this issue is safe on both sides of the aisle right now.
Yeah.
Like if you go and you talk to Republicans and Democrats, they would probably both say, yeah, we don't like big tech doing this to our kids, and it is now an issue, and people are all aware of it now. And it sort of seems like the safe place to be when nobody wants to talk about anything else that's happening around in the United States right now.
That 100%.
That's what I would say.
100% yes, but you have to think. Let's not forget about the wonderful dinners at the White House that Jeff Bezos was at. You had Zuckerberg. You had all all the people.
They all genuflected.
Exactly.
We know what they.
So
what
that
they did.
This was part of that for sure. So anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Let's move on quickly here. So let's cover OpenAI really quickly here, because the other big news this week is that they have announced that they're discontinuing Sora. I mean, a couple of months after launching Sora as a separate kind of thing, and making a big deal with Disney. This coming courtesy of the BBC. So this first story that we'll cover here, which basically says OpenAI has shut down its artificial intelligence video generation app Sora less than 2 years after its unveiling made headlines for creating realistic clips based on.
Has it been
prompts.
2 years?
Sora has been around
2 years.
Yeah, but the Sora has been around for 2 years. But the app that they launched with all sorts of fanfare was last year, I think. End of last year.
Got it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. At the same time, OpenAI will also wind down its $1 billion contents partnership with entertainment giant Disney. The BBC understands. Well, the BBC understands. Yeah, of course they did, because there's no. I mean, it's like there's no deal there, right? If you don't have a product, you don't have it anyway. OpenAI told the BBC on Wednesday that it has discontinued Sora so that it can focus on other developments such as robotics that will help people solve real-world physical tasks. That sentence is doing a lot of work in that little quote there. We could talk about that. Mm-hmm. We'll combine it with a story that basically also came out this week, which is that they have hired a new advertising head of advertising at OpenAI. This is from the Wall Street Journal, where OpenAI has tapped Meta executive to lead the ad push. And the story there opens up with saying OpenAI has hired Dave Dugan, a former top advertising executive at Meta, to lead ad sales as the AI startup works to strengthen its ties with major advertisers. Dugan, who announced earlier this month he was stepping down from his role as VP of Global Clients and Agencies at Meta, has been named to Vice President of Global Solutions for OpenAI. And so this feels very much like a company that is trying to figure shit out and is really struggling to. I don't know how you feel about all these moves.
Well, when I heard about the hiring of Dave Dugan and this focus on ads, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I think that they need cash. They need revenue. So
they need revenue and progress more than anything else.
We need something.
Yeah.
And
we need a business model that works, basically.
I mean, let's go back 9 months. It's been a long time since you've seen the disintegration of a brand so quickly as you have in OpenAI and ChatGPT versus their competition.
Yep.
Specifically Gemini and Claude.
Yep.
That seem like they're in a different ballpark now. I mean, you even mentioned recently that you went to Claude versus switched from ChatGPT. Yep. I can't, like, if you go on my LinkedIn feed, it's like one after another say, oh, I finally left ChatGPT. I finally went to Claude, or I finally went to Gemini. I'm like, oh my God. So this is a thing. So it does reek of a little bit of desperation here on OpenAI's part to say, oh, okay, there's that. So that's the ad side.
Yeah.
If you look at the Sora app side, I think you and I, when we talked about it when they launched it, it's sort of a solution looking for a problem that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Like nobody. I always actually, when I saw this article, I thought about not to get political, but I thought about the SAVE Act. I said, here's something that is being created to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what's happening here. And so, yeah, it's complete desperation. It almost makes you question why Disney went in like this so quickly. Into like it's almost seems like a little desperation on Disney's side as well. So now the whole thing's done. And here we are back to
there's theories that
stuff.
basically this was the answer to a, instead of a lawsuit, they make a deal, right? For licensing, and which is easier to get, to transfer money back and forth that they would have. So this is OpenAI sort of hedging, as it were, instead of, suffering through a lawsuit and all that, where they would have to have discovery and, and blah, blah, blah. They just make a deal, right? So this, I could see Disney being like really annoyed about this. Because I don't think you're going to see them make a deal with someone else.
They never even did. Like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
No money was transferred. Nothing was really done with the IP on the site itself.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine there are a lot of lawyers and project managers and stuff like that running around Disney that are sort of annoyed right now about how much work they did to make something like this actually start to happen, whether it was theater or not. But there are a lot of PowerPoint presentations. I guarantee you there are a lot of PowerPoint presentations talking about this that are now getting filed away on, on servers.
But it's not on the positive side. It's not unlike what we've seen from Google all these years, where Google will launch something, they'll see if it takes, and then they'll get rid of it. Google Plus comes to mind from that standpoint. But if you look at the data, Sora says Sora made $1.4 million in global net in-app revenues compared to $2 billion over the same period for ChatGPT. I mean, come on. It's been out there. They were trying to see if it was going to work. They're not making any money right now. They need cash badly. So they're like, okay, let's stop focusing on this little side project that's not doing anything for anybody, and let's focus, to your point, what you mentioned at the start of this news thing, like what we want to focus on. Things will help people solve real world physical tasks.
And I have, and the fact that these two things are coming so close together, it would not surprise me to hear, because remember, the original intent behind Sora, at least from the press releases and stuff, and we even covered it on this show, the original intent was as a social media network, right? They wanted to create sort of the ability to create pictures and comment and basically make kind of a TikTok with AI sort of thing, where you would make videos and then share them with your friends, and then you'd have followers and all that kind of stuff. And of course, none of that really ever took place. It would not surprise me that if we sometime down in the future, we figure out that this new advertising guy came in and went, yeah, no, that's stupid. Don't do that, because we should just be an engine over here and do advertising and be Google, basically, that, and do ads on searches, right? And really focus our ad dollars there.
It's interesting to see what they're going to do. It's just,
Well, speaking of what are we going to do, and speaking of ads, we have our last week. Our last week of
say it ain't so.
Yeah, we have our last week of Outlaw Country and paying some bills. So we should probably pay a couple.
All right, here you
They said truth don't sell in a town of plastic. I'm just a dreamer lost in the static. Broke as a bottle on a gravel floor, kicking the teeth of a locked up door. Pride don't feed you when the crop is thin, and freedom don't polish a MacBook skin. So I'm paying the bills. Don't need a permit for the way I feel. I ride my own line, let them say what they will. High-tech, outlaw, low-down skill. Yeah, I'm paying the bills. I'm paying the bills. Stubborn jaw and an iron will. Call it selling out, I call it grit. I ain't bowing down, I'm just making cool shit. Yeah, I'm paying the bills.
Sometimes getting schooled in content is just what you need. And HubSpot makes impossible growth impossibly easy for their customers. Here's the perfect example. Morehouse College needed to reach new students with fresh, engaging content. But with a massive 900-page website, even the tiniest updates took 30 minutes to publish. Breeze, HubSpot's collection of AI tools, helped them write and optimize their content in a fraction of the time. The results? 30% more page views, and visitors now spend 27% more time on their site. Ready for impossible growth like this? Visit HubSpot.com today. Would you like to go back to school? Well, let me introduce you to the Marketing School podcast, hosted by Eric Sue and Neil Patel. It brings you 10 minutes of actionable marketing advice every single day. Get the right tips to take your business to the next level and get to work right away. You can find Marketing School podcast wherever you follow your favorite pods.
A country boy can survive, and sometimes he's got to monetize. Hell, even an outlaw's got to pay for the bandwidth. Paying the bills, send the wire, son. Paying the bills.
I got.
Oh, I'm gonna miss that guitar lick.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be hard to top that one. I mean,
I gotta figure out quick what I'm gonna do for April.
you haven't started working on it yet. Oh,
Well, we've had
you
some
make
suggestions,
trouble.
we've had some suggestions, and the suggestion was for ABBA, which I really want to try and do, but it's really hard to get a band, right? It's really hard to get the sound alike to a band. It's genres are easy, so I'm working on it. Yeah, because I want to do ABBA. Because
it's going to take some more time.
Well,
to
you
do
and
that.
me as blondes and in jumpsuits is kind of too juicy to pass up. I mean, come on. As 6 foot tall blondes with jumpsuits on. I mean,
oh man,
yeah,
the blonde and then the salt and pepper beard.
Oh my God,
gonna kind of.
It's gonna be so.
It's not gonna be. It's not gonna be pretty. It's not gonna be pretty.
If I can make it work, it's gonna be great. So.
All right, we're that'll be next week's show, right?
It will be, yeah. It'll be next week, yeah. So I got work to do this weekend.
I can't believe it. It's we're getting into April already.
I know, it's unbelievable.
Nuts.
It's
crazy. Tell you.
All right, let's get into it here. With speaking more of advertising here, let's TikTok. So this comes courtesy of Axios. TikTok to reimagine video advertising. This was an announcement made last week as well. And TikTok on Tuesday introduced a slew of new ad products designed to help brands tell higher impact stories beyond what they could do on traditional television or standard mobile video ads. That's sort of stated as fact, but I'm not sure it holds up. But anyway, Axios going to Axios. It says, anyway, TikTok's huge reach has made it a must-buy for performance advertisers looking to sell goods or drive tune-in for shows. Now executives told Axios it's making it easier for marketers to tell bigger brand stories at culturally relevant moments. Basically, the quote goes, historically, media buyers and advertisers and brands have looked at video as a way to reach a mass audience, said David Kaufman, head of monetization, product solutions, and operations for North America at TikTok. That's a hell of a title. The persuasion element of that and the immersive and storytelling elements of that have been missing from the digital video experience. Really? Have they? I'm not sure about that. Anyway, they're now available on TikTok. Advertisers can now buy a logo takeover, which will allow them to co-brand with TikTok on the logo launch page when users open the app. The company opened a new primetime sequential storytelling ad that allows brands to deliver up to 3 ads to the same user within a designated 15-minute window for the For You feed, which is akin to TikTok's personalized homepage for users. There you go. American mucking with the algorithm. So anyway,
Yeah.
a couple of other new features that will be there as well. And this is paired with, by the way, another story that came out, which was all of this stuff came out at the NewFronts. And the NewFronts, for those of you who don't know, the NewFronts are sort of there's a thing in television called the upfronts. And so many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there's a new thing called the NewFronts, which is more of the digital side of things, which is the NewFronts are like, where you buy all your advertising inventory and you show off all your new advertising stuff if you're a content platform. And so at the NewFronts, TikTok was pitching advertisers on this bold new chapter as part of the new U.S. Thing, which is basically they're sort of repositioning all of the advertising on TikTok and basically saying, hey, we're standing today, we're good, we're all here, and basically they're polishing up, it was their coming out party, right, from the U.S. thing, and wondering to get your take on both of those things. Is TikTok finally sort of making noise now that the new ownership and all that stuff is done? And what do you think?
This feels more to me like the jumping the shark moment.
Yes,
to be honest.
exactly.
So I'm going to read the two final sentences of this article.
Yeah.
The great news is we are business as usual, Weiss said. Users and advertisers, quote, won't experience anything different. There's no way that's true. The bottom line, Weiss said it wouldn't be fair to suggest that TikTok's new ad offerings are trying to mimic television ads, but rather this is the modern video experience, said the guy that's going to lose his job in 6 months.
Exactly.
This is the biggest bunch of crap you could possibly put together. You are what has made TikTok so amazing, I've heard.
Yes.
Is because of the experience and the seamlessness that the ads do not necessarily intrude. And everything I'm reading in this is intrusion.
Exactly.
Let's make it more like television, which we hate those ad placements.
That's right.
We hate logo. Let's do a 3-part logo takeover. You know who hates logo takeovers? Everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody hates them. So let's just do that. Again, the kind of the theme of this episode, we're going to talk about Apple in a second, but OpenAI and now TikTok with the advertising, it smells of a little desperation. And to your point, let's put the big USA stamp on this one and really do some interruption.
That's right.
And really make it horrible for these people on TikTok.
That's exactly right. I guarantee you the room at the NewFronts smelled of Drakkar cologne and desperation, basically.
Drakkar and desperation.
It was
with a hint of cigarettes.
With a hint of cigarettes, right? It's just you nailed it. I mean, this is exactly what I think as well, which is basically this is TikTok desperate to now look like a advertising platform that is going to make $1 gajillion and losing what made the magic happen, and trying to monetize the hell out of it. That it's just like this is all the people coming in and saying we can monetize this way better than ByteDance did. We can totally monetize this in a way that the kids are going to love. And to your point, that has almost never ended well. Ask AOL, ask Yahoo, ask so many companies that have tried to do this in the past and just fallen on their faces.
Well, and the other thing too, and we talk about this when you get a new CMO that comes in, the new CMO, the ones that always make the mistakes are the ones that want to change the logo, right? We've talked about this forever. You actually, when you come into
the brand, change the brand.
Yeah. But in this case, when you have such a, that's a huge event to go from Chinese ownership to quote unquote U.S. ownership.
Sure.
You don't make any changes for a while. You just don't. You just You let it settle in, and they're making the biggest mistake on a transition, which is let's change everything. Let's change how the ads work because
that's right.
We know better.
And not only do you not change things, when you do change things, you do them in very subtle ways so that you don't even know that it's happening. Yeah. Right. I mean, we talked about this. There was a great case study that we talked about, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9 years ago, where a microbrewer who was doing amazing content marketing, had built this amazing audience with their basically rate beers, and a whole community that would come in and rate all these microbrews, and had built this whole thing. And basically I'm forgetting their name, it's the Budweiser, but the big brand that owns Budweiser and all the big brand I can't remember their
AB
sort of
Beverage.
AB Beverage. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so Anheuser-Busch, right. And so they came in, and the first thing they did was basically did this huge press release to say, we're doing all this stuff. We bought this company. We bought the community where, it's AB, blah, blah, blah. And basically the community just like evaporated overnight. You're
talking about platform, right?
Yeah.
Talking about platform. Yeah. We had the platform in Cleveland, and it just kind of,
Yeah.
It's
and it just everybody left because it's like basically the big corporate people came in and ruined it basically. And this is the same thing that's happening here, only in kind of in reverse, if you will.
Yeah, totally agree with it. So just a big, dumb with a capital D. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our winners and losers, where we are going to talk about a loser in the last week of marketing or a winner in the last week of marketing. Although I think we both have losers this week. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first? I'm happy to go
first. It's very brief. This is an article from Ars Technica. Apple confirms that its Maps app will begin showing ads to users this summer. I don't know. This has to be worse than the TikTok thing for me, because why I don't like this move from Apple is it just seems so off brand to me. Now again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, because I haven't seen how these will be integrated into the app.
Yeah.
But it just, I guess maybe it gets you're a larger, bigger Apple user than I am, and what it smells to me like is that their iPhone sales have not been growing like they wanted to. So their hardware sales of all the hardware that they offer, they're not getting the growth they used to get. So where's Apple going to get this growth from? They're going to get it from their services division. And part of that is their advertising division. So you're putting a lot of effort on the services division for subscription revenue, for advertising revenue, and you make this one little move, and before you know it, 2 more moves, and you're Microsoft. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about what this means for the future of Apple, because they are signaling a change in how they do business. What do you think about that?
I think this is much ado about not much. I think this probably ranks 762 on their worries and priority list.
Why do they even do it then?
It's a great question. I mean, it's like, why do this? I mean, to me, it could be a test. Look, they're not doing well when they basically came out of the gate with Maps really blazing in terms of competing with Google Maps, and have since really fallen off. Like, I don't use Apple Maps anymore. I just don't find them terribly useful. Google Maps is just better. And so, I think in many ways, this is an afterthought for them. It's like, yeah, we could, the number of people who use Apple Maps is probably relatively small. And so if they can make it a little bit of more of a profitable division, then they keep it, and et cetera, et cetera.
So you're making my point.
Yeah, no, I think the point is
this makes no sense.
It makes no sense. No, it's not that I disagree with your point. I just don't think that I don't even think that it's not, as a business strategy, they even think about it. This is like such a minor thing for them. I think it's not even, I think if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Right.
Yeah, I agree. But here's my prediction is when you make a concession here, you start making other concessions. Everyone knows that they've lost their growth driver. They are the 4th most valuable company in the world, or something, 3rd or 4th most. It used to be the most valuable company in the world. There's major problems at Apple because they don't have the growth engine anymore.
Well, that's a fair point, right? I mean, but that's not going to be solved with advertising, full stop. I mean, yeah,
exactly right. I think
they have to get into healthcare, or they have to get into, they have to launch a car, or they have to do something when you're a multi-trillion-dollar company, you can't, advertising is not going to be the thing that is your new growth engine. You have to launch something, take on something huge. And what that huge is going to be is anybody's guess. For a while, there was some thought that it might be finance, right? With Apple Pay and, sort of getting into banking and that whole thing. I don't think that's it anymore. I think if I had to guess, it would be healthcare of some kind, right? That they're going to try and solve.
I don't know. I think that's where Amazon's going.
Well, Amazon's definitely going 100%.
Amazon-
Amazon's going there, right? They've got their plan now, and they've got their prescription, plans and all that kind of stuff. But it's really interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to a live Jeff Bezos to tell me what's wrong with
Yeah.
me and then prescribe me ketamine.
Oh my God. Or the AI engine on Amazon, right? The AI engine on Amazon that's going to tell you what drugs you should be taking.
Oh God! All right, what do you got?
All right.
What's your?
So this is a very inside baseball for advertising sort of world, but for those of you who are in the programmatic advertising world, this is the article that I'll link to in the show notes. It comes from Digiday, but there are a lot of people are talking about basically Publicis, which is one of the bigger agencies out there that still operates as an independent kind of thing. But they're a huge organization. And by the way, they have their own programmatic ad platform. Well, they have basically come out and said to all their clients that they've put Trade Desk. So Trade Desk is a platform for programmatic advertising. So think, you've got Google programmatic advertising that does all the Google stuff, but then you have others like Trade Desk, which will do programmatic advertising across, multiple places where it's sort of you can buy audiences and, and have them programmatically displayed and do all that kind of stuff. And basically Publicis has come out and said, we're not advising clients to use Trade Desk anymore. And what this really is at the bottom of it all is who's getting the small sliver of profitability here, right? So, it's basically it's really a fight around the Trade Desk makes money by the profit margin on what is bought versus what is sold, right? So they're basically a brokerage, and so the idea, however, is that Publicis wants that money, right? They want that because they have their own platform that they'd like to optimize, but two, they would just like to take that money. And so they're basically saying, hey, Trade Desk is, fraudulent and, has all sorts of things. And Trade Desk is coming back and going, screw you, you're the one who are basically, trying to cheat your customers. So it's a big fight right now, but I think Trade Desk loses this battle. So this is why I'm calling them the loser here, because they're just not, I don't think they're going to come out on the on the good side of this. But this gets to my sort of usual rant around programmatic advertising, which is like, it's not terribly effective anyway. So, I think generally speaking, scale here is is in my newsletter this week. It's really about, I talk about how scale used to be the solution and now it's the problem. And point to so many different companies where scale is actually starting to become like the issue rather than sort of the answer. And I think this is another great example of this, where they're so big now that it's actually a problem, because they're now sort of struggling with the idea of how are they actually going to make money in a world where programmatic really can't be across all these huge audiences can't be the real answer anymore. So to be watched, if you're in advertising or programmatic, especially on the agency side, this is a battle to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hope it all falls to pieces and goes away.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly it, right?
That's what we
exactly
want.
It. Yeah.
No more programmatic.
Yeah. Well, and I'm on a tear about big agencies these days because I have a.
You've been on a tear for 20 years, Mike.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's be honest.
That's actually true. That's actually true. All right, let's get to our rants and raves here, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like it's opening day, or something that makes us feel like we're the last place spending team in the MLB.
They're the overachievers of Major League Baseball.
There you go. Do you feel like they're going to win this year? Do you feel like they're gonna go far?
I feel similar to last. They won the division last year.
Right.
Nobody still can figure out how they did it. Actually, what's funny is they were in August. They were 15 and a half games behind Detroit, and they came back and won the division from Detroit. And I
Did
saw
they make any moves this offseason that would improve their odds for this
no,
year?
not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all.
okay.
But I saw somebody wearing a shirt last year that, or I can't remember where it was, where it had 15.5 on the back. And so it's a very obscure reference. Like nobody would get that except Guardians fans, knowing that that was the largest amount ever overcome in a divisional race, 15.5
yeah.
games to win.
There you
Anyways, doesn't matter. Yes, I'm very optimistic. I want to see the young players develop, and hopefully they'll do well. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's not like the Dodgers.
Let me go first with our, well, right. Exactly.
Yeah, you go first.
I'll go first because then we can talk about your Rick Rubin thing. But basically, this is very quick. It's some commentary I have over something that is not getting a lot of coverage right now. So, if you didn't realize, and what we'll link to is a Reuters article here, which basically, so if you've not seen it, Perplexity sued Amazon because Amazon says that it can't use its Perplexity is not allowed to use its AI agents to go in and shop on Amazon's platform. So the idea is that you could use Perplexity literally almost as a shopping interface, go buy through Amazon and never go into Amazon's interface. And Amazon said no and closed it off. And then Perplexity sued, basically saying you can't do that. And a judge has recently said, okay, yes, Amazon is correct here. They're okay to have the walled garden that to block Perplexity. Perplexity appealed it, and a circuit court judge this week basically said, okay, we're going to stay the order so you can still do it until we can figure out, what's going to happen here. So they're fighting, and this is going to go to appeals on all this kind of stuff. So the question is, if you're a site like Amazon, or if you're a content site, et cetera, are you allowed to block AI agents, which are acting like people, to come in and do the functionality on your site? And it's a really interesting question, right? Because, in many ways, what Amazon is saying is, hey, we have a walled garden, and you have to ask, you have to pay for it. Basically, you're going to have to pay for that for that level of functionality. If you want, it's not unlike when banks introduced ATMs, right? And they started to charge you for the use of ATMs, which were, wait a minute, this is easier for you and easier for me, and you want to charge me money for it. Mm-hmm. This is a similar type of situation where Amazon is basically saying, no, you can't have AI agents come in and shop for people, because that gives you, the ability to basically pull it's kind of rich, actually, if you think about it, for any company to that creates AI to say, hey, wait a minute, we scraped all this content, and now you can't have access to it. Because now Amazon is different, of course, because it's products and services, and you can buy things through Amazon, et cetera. It's more of a catalog. But you can see this applying to others as well, right? Where you can't use AI, an AI agent, to go in and act as your interface into a particular corpus of data. So maybe the New York Times, or or your website, or your e-commerce site, and there's good arguments, I think, on both sides of this. But it's just fascinating because we're not really. This is going to be a really interesting one to watch as we go forward, to see where this comes down, to see who's got the right to do what, right? And it will be a big, like literally billboard size viability on AI agents. Because if you think about this, from all the AI agents you might be using to scan Salesforce, or to use it to scan HubSpot, or to do anything where there's a walled garden of data that you may own, actually, or that you may want to buy from, and having the AI agent basically be able to provide you with the interface without you ever needing to log on to that interface. You want to go buy a plane ticket. Can I buy a plane ticket right there through ChatGPT or Perplexity, and buy the plane ticket from American Airlines without ever logging in or having an account with American Airlines? That's an interesting question.
I think the answer will ultimately be yes. I think that the future is that you'll be able to do just about anything with, don't even say AI, the computerized, synthetic
Yeah, I mean, it gets to the
order
whole
list of
Yeah,
like,
well,
hey,
I
I
mean-
need something in my fridge. I'm gonna something over here.
Yeah.
Things are gonna happen automatically around us where you're not even gonna be involved in it, and it's just gonna take care of it.
But it also gets to the question of, okay, then we don't really need an interface at all, right? In other words, when you start thinking about websites or online applications in the future, you may just need to be able to protect your functionality without an interface at all, because if Perplexity or some sort of, Claude or something like that can basically interact and create the interface on the fly. And this, by the way, is what Google wants to do and is testing right now. Like, you go to Google and you have it do one of those research reports in Notebook or something like that, and it's creating an interactive interface for you for that report. It's creating a website for you, ostensibly.
Yeah.
So it becomes a really interesting thing about the internet and what interface design really is the future of it.
Yeah, I mean, do you need? Even the article says, Perplexity is saying, just because AI agents don't have eyeballs, why? because Amazon wants the eyeballs to look at the advertising.
Of course they do.
Yeah. So this is, I would imagine that. I mean, it's already happening. Where I guess it's a little bit differently, but if I'm talking to an AI or I'm talking to Siri or whatever, and I'm like, oh, buy this airline ticket, go do this, get the groceries, whatever, all that stuff will happen automatically, and I'm not logging into any of it.
Right.
It's happening.
That's right. So the future of retail media networks, for example, right? All the ads that people are buying now on Walmart.com or Amazon or, any of the big, retailers out there where they're selling and a lot of that is how the sort of new slotting fees for retailers, where they have these retail media networks where you can buy, your preferred spot.
Yeah.
That goes away. That goes away in this kind of world.
Well, kind of leads into my commentary rave, if you will. Thanks to Michelle Peterson, friend of ours in the show, for sending this over to us. This is from article series called White Noise from Tom White. Rick Rubin is the future of work. And basically the article talks about, and you mentioned this many times, we've talked about Rick Rubin before on the show. Rick Rubin doesn't know how to operate any musical equipment, whether it's instruments, whether it's production equipment. But what Rick Rubin has is an idea of what's good, and if you want to call it taste or the taste economy. Mm-hmm. And Rick Rubin is still one of the most influential people in music production, but doesn't know how to do those things. And the article goes in and talks about maybe this is the future of where humans are at in this age of AI, where we understand something so well, and Rick Rubin does. I mean, he's listened to probably more music than anyone on the planet has, and he knows what he likes and knows what he doesn't and knows why that is, and can pick out things in songs, but doesn't know how they actually occur. And I think the similar thing might be taking place for, us in marketing, or somebody has an expertise in accounting or finance or whatever, to have some kind of discrimination about what is good and what is not good. And the tools kind of revolve around you to get these things done. So I guess I would rave about the article from a standpoint is, if you want another take on where AI is taking us, this is kind of a good thing to read. There might be a future for, and I think you mentioned this recently when we were talking, where it's not to get, our job is not to get good at AI. Our job is really right now to get good at whatever, or a really good understanding of our passion and that thing we're interested in. And then maybe those tools around us will help us in some way get that job done, but not necessarily just go all in on AI, because we don't know what that problem is. We don't even know what that means necessarily. So I like this article. Yeah, I think it's kind of fun to think about, and maybe it's just wishful thinking too. This is kind of where we're headed. I don't know. It's
a whole. I mean, Rick Rubin plays a big part of my book, Valuable Friction. Right? It's his. The quote that I use, and I use it all the time now. It's sort of become almost my mantra these days, is in his book, where he talks about the idea. He says, when the work has 5 mistakes, it's not ready yet, but when it has 8 mistakes, it might be. And So he talks about the idea of putting you know when it's ready because you have the taste and discernment and the ability to understand what good looks like. And in so many ways, when we create stuff, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a white paper, whether it's some sort of thought leadership, social media post, whatever, the key there is whether AI creates it or not. And you and I have talked at length about this, whether AI creates some of it, all of it, or none of it. Basically, the idea is that only, the value that is determined about the thing is in the eyes of the consumer, not you.
That's right.
But you have to know when it's ready for the consumer to create that value if you're going to be successful with it. So that's the magic. It's not in the actual typing or the, when it's done or who creates it. The value is created on consumption. And that, and of course in the book, I make an argue about that friction plays a big role in that, because slowing down and actually taking the time to understand if it has 5 mistakes or 8 mistakes is the key there, and understand and being good at what it is you want to be good at is the critical path there. And, we've had this discussion before where it's like, the idea around AI is getting, our friend Mitch Joel just posted about this on Facebook. I think it was Facebook or LinkedIn, where he talked about, he's trying to get his, do we care? And this is something you talk about all the time. Like, do we actually care if it's AI created or not? And my answer these days is no, you don't ultimately care, because you ultimately won't know. The only way you'll know is if, this is the metaphor I've been using of late, which is plumbing, right? Which is, if I can see your plumbing in whatever it is, if you've human created a piece of content, or you've used AI to create a piece of content, or if you've used AI to create some or all of it, if I can see the plumbing there, the content's going to be not great for me. It's not going to resonate with me, because I don't want to see the plumbing. I want you to demonstrate value. I want you to show me the value, right? Show me, don't tell me, all of the classic writing stuff. Doesn't matter how it's actually assembled, right? Ultimately, it's if you're showing plumbing, it's not going to be good, because you haven't recognized when that value can be created.
I guess that's where I'm struggling. I don't know if you are as well, but at least recently, maybe this last week, I go on and I see a lot of people that we know that are railing and ranting about like, really, I think over, like, oh my God, it's not the LLMs and it's not human, and humans will always have humans have a soul and whatever. And I'm like, what are you guys fighting about? If
Right.
it has a point,
you're
of
missing
view,
the argument.
yeah.
I think.
If it does, if the content does the job, the consumer doesn't care. You can talk
Right.
about fighting all the time about, oh no, it has to have a soul, and it's morally right, and the writer and whatever. And like, we've talked about it a couple weeks ago, where like, what are we talking about here? Content doesn't need a heartbeat. It does not need a heartbeat. It just needs to solve a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point, because the argument is misplaced, right? The argument is if those people's argument is you as the creator are not enriched, right? Because you're using AI to create the thing, fine. I buy that argument, but that's a you problem, right?
Yeah.
In other words,
It's a different audience. It's not the audience.
that's you're not feeling enriched as a creator or an artist or a writer or whatever it is. If you're not enriching yourself because you're not challenging yourself, as a consumer, I don't give a shit. If you're not enriched, if the artist isn't enriched, I don't care. This is the Rick Beato. So as he sort of rails against AI, he's like, I spent 47 years playing guitar. That's cheating if you don't do it. It's like, I don't care, Rick. If the music is good, I don't care that you spent 47 years learning how to play it, or if you spent 10 minutes learning how to make it.
You could have spent 47 years and had really bad music.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's right. And so enriching yourself, totally get it, totally, but that's an argument that we have over a glass of whiskey. It's not a reason to not use AI. Yeah. And if you're using AI in a ham-fisted way and it's going to be bad content anyway. Therefore, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to work. So the argument is dead there too. So the key is that it's just about make good stuff and enrich it for yourself at the level that you need to be enriched.
Yeah, I think that some of the people that we know that are standing on that wall that are saying it will always have to be human content, and we have to fight for it. I think I don't know why you're doing it. I think you're wasting time.
Yeah, well, it's just
absolutely wasting time.
It's the classic Clayton Christensen quote, right? You know, you may hate gravity, but gravity doesn't care.
Yep. Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to comment on all these things on LinkedIn and just say,
I know, but
but I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't.
No. I get it. I get why you don't. I get why you don't.
I know, because you know what? I want to make my comment and go away. I don't want to respond.
I know, exactly.
I just want to say something snarky.
I don't want to interact with people. I don't want
it's like, that's the problem. Yeah. It's like,
I just want you to know you're wrong. And then I walk out the door.
That's my wife and I talk about that all the time. You know, the bad thing about vacations is other people.
Yeah.
Totally. How do we do a vacation with no other people?
I had that conversation with my wife when we were in Cabo this weekend. I'm like, man, this would be great if there was nobody
here. Oh, it's so terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, what do you got? What do you got going on?
I'm busy. I am busy with client work. I am busy. And hopefully getting a little time to get out and touch some grass this weekend, because it's finally going to be nice weather here in LA, and get out and do a hike or something. So yeah, how about you?
Good. I'm obviously opening weekend, Major League Baseball. I'm going to be watching some baseball.
Okay.
But I've got a week in the office to get a lot of stuff done, and then I'm basically out almost all of April.
Wow. Okay.
Which
Yeah.
you and I have talked about all the like how we're going to do this podcast and everything. But I've got, it's business and personal stuff, and it's just happened to be all April. So
all right,
it's not a problem. It's just a thing. So I'm writing ahead, getting ready, getting the newsletter going, all that good stuff. So
yeah, gotcha. Yeah,
all good.
Well, very, very good. Well, thank you all for hanging out. We really appreciate it. We'll be, of course, back next week with a regular show. And yes, in April we'll probably have some special shows as well. But in the meantime, before we see you again next week, just remember, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. See you next week. This Old Marketing. Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribed to us on YouTube. That's right, youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.